5, 4, 3, 2, 1. When we are under the shadow, we are under its pattern of energy and its consciousness. We are following that pattern of thought forms and the beliefs. What happens when we are doing shadow work is that we are becoming the mastermind. Instead of being run by our own thoughts and bombarded, we are taking the higher road. And it takes courage, because what is mostly hidden in the shadows is fear. When we are willing to face fear face to face, to recognize its nature and what is the conditioning, what is the consciousness of darkness that is holding me, because we need to accept that at some level the shadow is a living thought form. It is a perspective that is generated from a disconnected aspect of our being, from a disconnected self that is in fear. And that fear is what is distorting our ability to respond. The shadow develops a type of defense mechanism in order to avoid any pain that is being activated under the surface. Any pain that is arising in our heart. And we have all created shadows as a response to the shadow projections that we experience from others in this world. And many of us can accept that we live today in a system-based reality of control. However, when we can begin to accept that we only have a system-based reality of control because we first were exposed to a spiritual system of control. This spiritual system of control is the system of shadow. The system of shadow that seeks to siphon our life force energy and our consciousness through the force field of spiritual violence. And what is this spiritual violence? It is the emotional and psychological conditioning that we all receive through the world of projection. If we consider ourselves spiritual and a bearer of the light, then we must also consider that the journey to the fullness of that light requires us to walk through this hell that we have created in our minds. Even Christ went down into the underworld before he was resurrected, because the shadows of the system are in us all. And Spirit, our true Spirit, is calling to us to come out of the collective shadows, to embrace our true light as a unified sun. We are the rising sun. We are the resurrection. We are the return. We are the kingdom. We are the dominion of kingship and true sovereignty. We are the sons of Zion. We are the earth keepers, the light workers, history makers, and revolutionaries. what we need to realize is that we have been hoodwinked into an unnatural type of reality, and we live out this world reality under an unconscious psychosis of illusions. And unless the shadow is released, it will continue to interpret and identify itself as you. Unless the shadow is released, you will continue to interpret and identify yourself as the shadow. And the shadow will send out its signal through you as the victim, as hopeless, as unworthy, as lost in the private underworld of darkness. The signal is the energetic consciousness of thought forms and beliefs about what reality is. This perspective, this signal, this transmission, this consciousness is what is causing the same kinds of situations to be created in our lives. These are the kinds of situations that come from fear, the kinds of situations that come from resistance, the kinds of situations that come from judgment. And we hear only the echoes of our own fears. We hear only the echoes and energies of our own resistances. And we hear only the echoes of our own judgments because we listen to the shadow. And we perceive this reality to be the cause, this external framework, as if it is everyone else's fault, or just the way that the world is. We externalize our frustration in order to avoid our own emotion. In order to avoid our own blind spots, and choose rather blame and shame towards others, because this is the energetic pattern we have learned through the energetic shadow projections that have conditioned our world. The world of spirit and the sense of self. This is our world. For the sense of self is the inner sense. And this is the world that has suffered violence. This is the world that has been taken by force. Our innocence. The ironic characteristic of this type of reality is that we all do this. We have all fallen short of the energy that we naturally are. Connection, acceptance, and love. And this energy brings us peace. This energy brings us balance. This energy brings us freedom. And yet we still choose to walk in fear. And yet we still choose to walk in resistance and judgment. When we are living in the shadows, we are listening to the shadows of past energies, and we are living in that old school energy of the type of reality that is based in fear, resistance, and judgment. To the soul that has an ear, let him listen to what the Spirit is saying, because there is another sound that is being heard. Those who will attune themselves back towards the inner higher vibrational consciousness and energy of their own true spirit Let him who has an ear hear what the Spirit is saying. And the shadow, like a ghost, it haunts us. It rises up from the underworld in rage and fear. And when its wound is triggered, this wound is the universal wound of the disconnected self. The spiritual self that has become a prisoner to the shadow and its energetic projection of fear, resistance, and judgment. And we say we want to be free of the system, and yet the system is inside of you. Because you are a living system of life force energy and consciousness. And if you want to change the world, then you must hear me and hear me now. The key to the new world that you dream of is found in the underworld within you. Your power is within you. The human experience is one of mystery and enigma. It is a riddle and a game, a dance between light and shadow. And in this life we will encounter thousands upon thousands of projected realities and shadows. And the reason why we go through these kinds of experiences is not to become shaped and defined by them. The reason we go through these kinds of experiences is so that we may be empowered by them to truly find our power and our light. This is the balance of light and shadow, the reconciliation of the two worlds. The ability to respond and find the light within yourself as the light bearer for the next generations to come is the path to your own greatness and freedom. The ability for us as a collective to respond and find the light within us as the light bearers for the next generation to come is the path to our greatness and our freedom. Most of us are completely oblivious to the shadows. We often end up defending the wound rather than healing it, and by default we are shutting down a vital part of ourselves through the shadow consciousness. This vital part of ourselves is the part of ourselves that is needed to create the new world of spiritual empowerment. The true kingdom is the kingdom of energetic consciousness. 2020 is the year of 2020 vision. It is the uncovering of shadows. It is the time at which we realize that nothing is really as it seems or appears on the surface. Because the true essence of reality comes from what is exactly happening under the surface. 2020 brings clarity in the exposure of illusions. Everything is coming out into the open, and we are returning to the inward motion of our own spirit. We can let go of the consciousness of fear. We can let go of the consciousness of resistance, and we can let go of the consciousness of judgment. These are the energies that have been amped up in 2020. Why? Because old systems of the energetic patterns of consciousness are now falling away. This is why those invested in control of the masses and the great deception are clutching at straws. This is why we are clutching at straws also, because we are having to face our shadows of apathy. The shadow that abdicates all responsibility to the government alone. And if we continue to believe it is up to the government alone to change and to fix everything, then we continue to believe that we are not in charge of our own consciousness and energy. That we need to be told for the rest of our lives what to think and what to feel. And that the only solutions that we will ever see are presented by the governing mind of current world systems. And these solutions are the ones that only benefit a small minority of people. This is not freedom. The true governance, the true sovereignty, the true kingdom is within us. It is this world, the inner world of our spirit, that has suffered such violence. And the violent ones, the shadows, fear one thing. They fear not being in control. And we have taken on this fear. We have taken on this fear and made it our own. But whose fear is this really? It does not belong to us. It is the fear of the system of control, the systems of control. That fear that we may find our true spirit. And our authentic spirit is not one of fear. It is one of love. Our authentic spirit is one of power. Our authentic spirit is one of the soundness of mind. Throughout our lives, we have been trained energetically and consciously to conform and control the urges and intuitions of our own spirit, to control our emotions and to control our own imagination. To not see beyond the current system-based reality of our world. It's no longer about that which appears on the surface. It is about the deep, calling to the deep, calling to the deep emotional world of the underworld. The underworld that is driving the consciousness of reality. Why do we focus so much on what the government is doing? What are we as the collective doing? Why do we focus so much on the governing consciousness of reality? What is presented to us in the media, from the experts? Where is our vision? Because without a vision, the people perish. The vision always arises out of the people. We are being soul tested. We are being asked by our spirit to come out of these shadows. And when we as the collective become one, as the 99%, as one that hold a vision, then we can employ the 1% to take care of the governing policies and regulations that will support our collective vision. And what is this vision? It is the preservation and protection of that which is sacred. And what is that which is sacred? That which is sacred is our spirit. That which is sacred is the earth. Gaia, Papatuanuku, and the future generations to come. The kingdom of heaven is within you. The kingdom of heaven is within us. The kingdom of heaven is that which suffers violence, and the violent ones take it by force. The violent ones seek not our money nor our land. They seek our energy and our consciousness. Why? Because whether you believe me or not, we are the ones who create reality. And the system cannot possibly sustain itself without the people. Our humanity is the struggle we have within ourselves. Our humanity is the struggle we have with the shadows that we have fallen prey to. Our divinity is the victory that we have within ourselves. Our divinity is the empowerment we encounter when we come out of the shadows and we recognize ourselves again as spirit and as sovereign, and we embrace our own heart. Being human is about our freedom to access what is under the surface, to find the place of safety in one's own self and peace and in one another, because vulnerability is actually power when we are in the company of others who are willing to do the same. Freedom is the ability to be vulnerable and empowered at the same time. What we must recognize in this hour is that it is a truly beautiful thing to be a human being. It is truly a beautiful thing. And when we can accept that yes, we are a mixture of light and shadow, because we are the embodiment of these two worlds that are at war with one another. When we can accept this, we shall become the generation of light workers that seek to reconcile the two worlds and work in our power on the earth. And until we as the collective can be truly honest with ourselves, then and only then can we begin to come out of the shadow. This is the vision. This is the new New Zealand, the land of zeal and fire that captured a nation. Because we are a nation that is under the surface, loyal. Let's make that dream a collective reality. Let us become loyal to our land, for we are the land. Let us become loyal to the people, for we are the people. And let us become loyal to our connection to the future generations, because we are the future generations. Let us become loyal to the spiritual world that is within us, for when we are loyal to our spiritual empowerment as people, then we are loyal to one another. And when we are loyal to one another and to the vision, we shall finally find